Welcome back, traders, to another market preview, this time for the week of July 28th. And let's get started with the dollar index on the monthly chart. Now, if you've been watching my weekly previews, you'll know that I have been bullish on the dollar index, but it's been a while since I've zoomed out and took a look at the big picture. But once I did on the monthly chart, I decided to reset my bias to neutral across the board, at least for this week. Also, don't forget, first Friday of the month will be a non-farm payroll day, so another reason to be neutral this week. But let me walk you through the charts and give you my thoughts. Now, if you zoom out on the monthly for DXY, you can see this consolidation area where we have relative highs and relative lows. Price first breaks out of this consolidation to the upside and rebalances an old inefficiency back in 2002 before having a sharp drop. Now you can also see it respecting this order block here from 2001. So with price taking out the buy side first, this looks like manipulation, and in the long term, I expect price to come back down to take the sell side below these lows and rebalance this buy side inefficiency sometime in the next 5 to 10 years. But that's quite a ways away, so let's zoom into here and look at what has happened in just the last few years. So zooming in, you can see that after price hit that 2001 bearish order block, we had displacement lower to balance this monthly buy-side imbalance. Price then rallies back into this sell-side imbalance, but then dropped in creating another sell-side imbalance, which we are currently working in for the past 4 months. Now, if you take a closer look, you can see price working in this imbalance, but you can see that it is respecting this order block. I drew out the mean threshold, and you can see that it is acting like a ceiling on price. We've gone up and down and up and down, and if the dollar index is refusing to go up, we can expect it to go down, which aligns with my long-term perspective. I'll definitely be bearish on the dollar if we shift below this low, but even before this, I can see potentially to be bearish if we go below half of the tail on this monthly candle. Now I'm going to go into the weekly chart, and you'll see that this is actually the mean threshold on a weekly order block. So here we are on the weekly chart, and you can see that this order block here, I have the mean threshold drawn out. That's what you saw on the monthly chart. And here you can see that the last 2 weeks we've had price come down to take the sell side below this low and come back into this imbalance, and then we went and rallied back up. Now last week I was calling for price rallying up to take the relative highs and go back to the draw on liquidity right here. But with the long-term bias now in mind, price certainly doesn't have to go back up that high. However, we do see 2 sell-side imbalances here. I would still like to see price go up to this higher imbalance before coming back down. If we go ahead and take a closer look, if we draw out a gradient here, you can see that this is going to be in the optimal trade entry area. And if I change it to a gradient, you can see that this upper sell side imbalance is in the premium section of this range. So I would like it if we can get back up here and then see a quick drop. But again, like I said in the beginning of this video, going into this week, I want to have a neutral bias because price can still come up and take out the relative highs here. So I just want to keep my eyes on how price behaves within this range. So last week, you can see the dollar index was pretty much consolidating, although we did dip into this lower fair value gap. I think we can go up even higher into this optimal trade entry area to get to the upper weekly fair value gap. So I think coming into this week, I want to be neutral, but I will be slightly bullish on dollar, seeing if price can get up into this area, although it doesn't really have to. I mean, it's already dipped into the lower fair value gap, so it could very well drop from here. But I'm going to bet on coming back up to this premium area. Now moving on to S&P on the weekly chart, you can see that this is the weekly fair value gap I was calling for last week. We did end up getting that, and now price has closed right here around equilibrium if you're taking this high to this low. But we can go ahead and adjust this a little bit by moving the low down to this low, and we see equilibrium is going to be around here, which lines up well with this weekly order block and these red candles as well. So if S&P is going to continue to be bearish, I could see price coming down to this equilibrium from the range of this high to this low. Now zooming into the daily chart, we can see that equilibrium level is around here, and we can see a daily fair value gap that wasn't closing all the way. So I can move my sell side draw to this low right here. Last week we had a pretty big drop and we created a large fair value gap, so we could see some retracement back into here. Similar to last week, we could be looking for an old low, so let me move this old low down here. Price could retrace back, and this old low could help keep price down to go for this sell side and back to the weekly equilibrium. Now moving on to Nasdaq on the weekly chart. Last week we were right here in this daily busy, and I was looking for the target to beat this weekly order block right here, and I drew it out with a green line. From this high to this low, this is also quite near equilibrium, so that was a reasonable target for last week, which we definitely got. Should Nasdaq continue to be bearish, I'm looking for this imbalance right here on the weekly chart. Here on the daily, you can see my drawing that I did for the last couple of weeks on how I thought price was going to move in Nasdaq. Last week, I was looking for price to come up into this sell side imbalance. We didn't quite get that, but it did come down to that order block to hit the target that I was looking for. And if you look at my drawing, it is quite similar to how price actually moved. It just didn't quite go as high as I thought in this little area here. But last week price moved somewhere from 20,000 to about 19,000, so another 1,000 point move that I predicted last week. I hope for those of you who saw my video last week was able to take advantage of this and make some profit on the way down. But if not, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on any future market previews where I can be calling these moves out again. Also, make sure you like this video to bring yourself some good luck, and while you do that, I'm going to redo some of the drawing on this chart and let you know what I think is going to happen for this upcoming week. So I am looking at this swing low for my sell side draw on liquidity, but this daily buy side inefficiency could be a speed bump for price to come down and go there. So I think this week we may see some retracement, perhaps back into this old sell side inefficiency, maybe even hitting this old low back here. Maybe we'll chop around for a little bit, but I expect price to come down to take out this low and then eventually come down to take out the sell side and go back into this weekly busy. But as I've said before, we do have non-farm payroll this week. I want to be kind of neutral. We've had quite a big drop, so we could just be consolidating for a little bit, maybe for all of this week, and then next week we could get the retracement and drop as I expect. So that's going to do it for me this week. I hope you were able to get something out of this video. If you would like to share your thoughts, I'd love to hear it in the comments below. But make sure you stay patient this week, be careful, and until next time, safe trading.